We are live, Conservatives of Texas. And in today's edition, we have a premise set up for Randall County Precinct Chair. Kathy Welch, she's in the 421, and myself, I'm in the 111. And we are wanting to provide all and any that want to come to the table today. It's Leif. He has agreed to come speak to our constituents in our particular precinct. We also have Cassie Mendoza. She has been a configured individual in today's political scene, and we really appreciate you, Cassie.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
You're very, very welcome. So, Leif, let's get started.
All right.
Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite.
You're very, very welcome. Let me get to my question screen here.
Okay.
But first, you can tell us just a little minute, 2 minutes about you and why you're running and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally I'm from Amarillo, Texas. Moved there when there was about 8,000 people. Saw it grow into what it is today. Moved up here in 2008. I came here for a college visit in 2007, fell in love with the area. My best friend came up here. I originally went to A&M Commerce, and I was out on the farm there. Decided to come up here, spread my wings, and have been here ever since. There was a year where I was commuting back and forth between here and work, and my family was down there with me for that time. But been here almost 20 years now. I got 3 degrees from WT. So criminal justice was my undergrad, and I have an MBA and a finance and economics master's as well. Yeah. Currently working on an MA in Christian studies from Denver Seminary.
Wow.
I have 3 businesses here in Amarillo, construction business, coaching and consulting firm, and also a sports entertainment company where we do concert promotions. And I'm working on getting the football team back, the arena football team back in the area. So
that's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. It's got to be better than when the other guy owned it. Stephanie was great, but who she sold it to, that's a different story. But
I got a new nickname.
Okay.
As many degrees as you have, I'm gonna start calling you Mr. Thermostat.
Okay. I'll take that
Fair
over.
enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
But the reason I'm running, I say the little people, and I hope people don't hear anything demeaning in what I say, but the perceived little people of Amarillo need their voice heard again. It's been 20, 30 years of the elites lining their pockets, getting rich off the taxpayers' backs. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it because I see it as a business owner, even more so now, that it's just like, man, how are they getting away with some of this stuff, right? And I want Amarillo to be a better Amarillo for everybody. And that's from anybody from Pleasant Valley down to this, the South Loop, anywhere in between. I want my daughter to have a place where she can grow up here, stay here, have the opportunities to stay here versus having to go to Dallas, Albuquerque, wherever it might be for a better opportunity. And just be proud of where we're at, right? And have people that want to work together versus against each other. Ultimately, I do want to be able to work together with people, but within the ideals of what I see fit, fiscally responsible, good principles, a win-win for
all sides.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Leif.
Yeah.
I want to open up with a scripture.
Okay.
And my pastor, he presented this a while back, and as long as I've been a believer, I didn't know it was in there, and I like it. And so I want you to comment on it. It says here in Exodus 18:21.
Okay.
It speaks on how to elect folks. Okay. And so it says here, and you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, and sure, of course, mankind, right? Able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of kings. You know, when it comes to being a good steward, I mean, right here in the Word of God, it's giving you a dynamic, a hater of covetousness and a lover of God, to fear God. Right? Do you think that today in the political spectrum, folks are adhering to that? And what is your take on that? How do you implement that to your leadership?
Yeah. Your first question, do I think people are implementing it now? I don't want to speak in generalities, but no. I think there are people who are doing it, but those are a lot of times people who are pushed to the back burner, who aren't heard very much. So yeah, just in short, I don't think, in general, no, they're not. And that's kind of where people may feel like those who are more radical, because it's like, I'm going to stick to my values. I'm going to stick to what I believe in. I'm not here to make myself better. And I talked about, I want all of Amarillo to do better, because when all of Amarillo does better, then all of Amarillo does better, right? Myself included. I think it's important. That scripture is important. When you look at it hermeneutically about where we're speaking of, where things were just really getting kicked off, especially in Exodus, towards where what Moses was getting ready to, journey on. We're taught in seminary that you preach to who God is calling you to, whether that's one person or thousands. And I think it's the same within political spectrum, right? You serve under God as to who God calls you to serve under and serve to. And that's why I have a servant's heart, a leader's vision. That's my campaign tagline. Right? And I truly believe in that first, before you can do anything in this world, is that you have to have a servant's heart under, the stewardship of the Lord. Because if you don't have your eyes set on the Lord, then you're never going to be able to shepherd people to that.
Sure.
And you have to be able to put away the earthly coveting, you can't, yearn for treasure within this. You have to have that pure heart, the same pure heart that the Lord has for us. It's difficult to do, and it's difficult to stand on those morals, because there's temptation everywhere out there in the political world. But quite frankly, it's something that it's needed more of.
And we're going to hear more than likely from the folks that can be a loud voice. Separation church and state.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? We're not running a theocracy here.
Right.
We want to. We don't want to hear all that. Whatever the case is. But how do you stand firm in your belief, and also stand firm on the pushback on that? Because there does seem to be. That seems to be the comeback.
Right.
So what do you say to that?
At some point in time, you have to stand on morals, right? My morals are Christian-based and faith-based. If they were in that position, then they would be standing on a different set of morals, right? But my morals are what's going to get me elected. Those are the morals that people want to see. Those are the things that people want to see, action. We could go into a whole apologetics course within that. But at some point, they have to realize that the adage that you have to stand for nothing or you'll fall, or stand for something or you'll fall for everything, is true. And that's what I stand for. Is I stand for my Christian beliefs, and I'm unapologetically Christian. And it's the same that I tell people. If you are voting for me and you're donating to me, then you're believing in what that I'm bringing to the table. If you don't believe in that, then please don't vote for me. Don't donate to me. Don't do any of that stuff, because you're not going to be able to, call me because you gave me X amount of money, and you're not going to be able to call me just because, of other certain items, right? If you believe in what I'm doing, then we're going from there.
Yeah, and then at the base of morality, there's the tug, good and evil. Well, where does that come from?
Mm-hmm.
And folks will say, keep your beliefs at home. But the truth of the matter is, our beliefs have legislated so many good things in this country, the founding, the fabric, And I would say that I would rather live in a country that was a believing country versus one that wasn't.
Right.
What would that spectrum even look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I liken that to the fact, like, bosses used to love to say, home stops at the threshold, right? When you walk into work, it does.
Sure.
It doesn't work that way. Like,
Right.
things follow you, right?
Yeah.
And I would rather have people that know what they're bringing to the table and know that they can integrate that part of their life in the workplace, in anything, and be able to make things better, right? But then still have the open heart to be able to listen. And I think that's a lot of what faith brings us, is that we have to listen. We're called to listen. So I would rather, just like you, I'd rather have that than the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how you phrased it the other day. Like you said, I'm constantly complaining about the big money that controls politics and therefore the politicians in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And in that context, at one of the many events that I attended that you were speaking at, you said something to the effect, I answer to the voters, but my only allegiance, you actually said, is to Jesus Christ, whose blood saved me.
Yeah.
That was I don't understand why more people aren't like that. But all this big money, we were talking about it before we began here, there's like $600,000 in one mayoral candidate.
Yep.
So it's actually exceeded your prediction. Just one of them has
Mm-hmm.
over 500, approaching 600,000.
And that's important too, is like, a man, money cannot buy a man who's been truly bought by the blood of Jesus.
Amen.
That's what I like.
There you go. I've heard it said once like this: if Jesus is not Lord of all, he's not Lord at all. Right? Cassie, did you have anything on any of that? I always know that I'm going to just come at you. Okay, so, I think this will resonate with you as I set this next portion up. When it comes to our size of our city, size of our budget, we're at $499 right now. Million. Let's just say 500.
Right.
$500 million, right? From 10 years ago, we were right around, I think I said 326, it's right around something like that, 326, 326. It's went up that much, right? When it comes to sports and recruiting, you do the most with what you can and how you can recruit.
Right.
So I think you do have a special attribute when it comes to the application of you coming up in the sports world, because that's your team.
Yep.
You got to make the best of who you got. Gary, that's where you're at.
Yep.
So how can we convey that process to what you're bringing to the table? Because guess what? This year we have $499. Next year we might have $399.
Right.
What do you have to bring to the table where you can apply your life experience in that? Because, it is what it is. You had to play with those team members.
Yeah.
Make the best of it.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where resources are finite. So that's where the fact that I have a master's in finance and economics comes into play. Budgeting, I'm a nerd for it. I mean, I don't like doing spreadsheets, but I like looking at spreadsheets. I like going over data. Finance is where I enjoy being. And you're 100% right. You've got to work with what you've got. But part of that too is like, where can we become lean, right? There is a point where you lose utility whenever you're talking about making cuts, like to where you're actually now like you're starting to chop the body instead of the loose ends. So we've got to be able to walk that line and be able to answer for it. Though part of that within my platforms has always been I want so badly to get the bureaucracy out. Some may call it Doge, some may call it you can call it what you want it. And I'll say this every time I say it, but I don't want people to hear me say I'm coming after jobs, but I do want people to be in spots where they can be effective for our taxpayers and to where that money that we're spending on their salary is being useful, right?
I love your original example that I keep going back to with you.
The animal control, yeah. And that's not saying that I want the animal control lady to be gone, but you know, her background, from what I understand, is in juvenile detention. So what?
She's animal control.
So do we not have a department where she's better suited in the city of Amarillo, to where she can? And that's part of it too. Like when you're an employee, don't you want to feel like you're making a difference, like where you have gifts, versus just being there. So cut through that kind of bureaucracy, then be able to go through building codes, the Sunset Committee, make sure that they're on the right track to get things in place to where, you know, old codes, it's easier to do business here, still keeping safety. But yeah, I mean, you've got to work with what you got to work with. And we need to go to a different budgeting process. Bottom line, if we've got $499, we don't need to have it to where people are trying to rat hole money. Like, no, like you have a zero-based budget, which means you come to me and you say, I'm requesting this because of this, 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 and this, which means you're expected to spend that on this, 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 and this, versus saying, well, you know, I think I might need 50 million this year, but in reality, I really only need 40. So I'm going to rat hole 10. So that way, you know, my rainy day fund in my department, like, no, like if you are within or outside of a variance, you're going to have to answer for that. Right. Because that $10 million, I'm using arbitrary numbers, right? But that $10 million that you requested over, that could have been put in a budget line item somewhere else. That could have been more effective in a zero-based budgeting or incentive-based budgeting. But when you hear governmental budgeting, governmental accounting, the first perception that people go to is, how are you hiding my money? And we've got to get that out of local government.
Go over to the window aspect where you need 5 million, but you ask for 20.
Yeah.
And you're good that you got 10.
Yeah.
And now you're ahead, and it's like,
yeah,
that's a little sketchy. You don't do that. Just Cassie, you got anything on that?
It's just follow the money,
Yeah.
you know, and where things are being. I have a bone to pick. It's like money's being spent on certain things that we don't even know about or we don't even want, and where other people other parts of our city are going without.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just think misappropriation of the funds.
Yeah. And I think we need to make sure that we're not being punitive necessarily. You know, if you're outside of variance, it doesn't automatically mean you're going to get fired, but it's like, okay, what are we doing in our budgetary process that you asked for 50, but you only spent for 40? You know, at some point you got to be like, okay, good job. If you were lean, like if you really thought you're going to need 50, but you made it work with that, then that's fine. But if you asked for 50, but you really at the very beginning only needed 40 and you were trying to be deceptive about it, then that's a problem. But we don't need it to be punitive to where if people are within their departments and they find out a way to make it operate better and more efficiently, then we absolutely need to reward them, which is why zero-based budgeting and incentive-based budgeting are usually the ways to go whenever you've got multi-million-dollar budgets. Because I ran a $250 million budget in corporate world. That was my P&L. And I was saying all the time, like, you don't have to spend it because you got it. Right? Like if you come in under budget, that's great. We're still gonna have a conversation. It doesn't mean you're in trouble. But
we've been hearing a lot over the last few weeks about the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I am sure, exceedingly oversimplified, but it seems to me that the city council and the mayor are like the board of directors,
Mm-hmm.
and the city manager is the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
That CEO still reports to the board of directors, or in
Yes.
this case, the city manager still reports to y'all.
Yes.
Do you believe you would be approaching that dynamic with this much strength and conviction, that he does not get to walk all over you guys because he reports to you?
100%. Yeah.
I'm not seeing a lot of that.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up.
I think a lot of it is this council is giving him a little bit of grace because he's coming into a situation that was not exactly conducive to success for him the first few months.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I do believe that the council right now is giving him some grace. I think at this point it's kind of time to turn the pressure up a little bit. And, you know, he's going to have to start answering the tough questions. He's 7-8 months into it now, I believe, maybe a little bit more. So yeah, it's getting to the point where like, hey, like you've learned it, you know your people. It's time to start, putting your foot down, making some things happen. And with me, I'm going to be that person. Like, okay, if you're not going to put pressure on your department head, I'm going to put pressure on your department head, and then me and you are going to have a conversation about why I had to go around you.
I mean, that's a principle in my business, is inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
And I think that the city manager is not in control of the city.
Mhm.
He is responsible for operations.
Yep.
But y'all are supposed to control what's going on at City Hall.
Yeah, we direct him, and well, I say we do direct, we delegate, I guess is a better word for it, right? We see the issues and we say this is where we need to chase down, right? So, but yeah, I mean,
So you're the coaching staff. You're
Yeah.
the quarterback.
yeah, 100%.
I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Go out and execute. Yeah.
So this ties in with money management. Okay. So would you implement a type of, right now in Amarillo Independent School District, we have, I think it's beautiful what they have there is a check register.
Right.
You can go to their website and it has month to month. You can pop that open 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 2 in the, it doesn't matter. It's there.
Yep.
It's a line by line, it's itemized to the best of the degree that it can be.
Right.
But you can tell what the check was written for.
Mhm.
Would you support a check register for things like the ADC expenditures? And just department spending and things of that
Mhm.
nature to be fully,
Transparent.
open
Mhm.
with how it's being spent, whose money is it?
Right.
I mean, can I look and see if, you bought 20 loaves of bread?
Yeah.
Or 2 loaves of bread? I mean,
Yeah.
it's our money, so go ahead. What-
I'm all for government transparency, and everyone knows about my legal situation and the stuff that went on for it. And the one good thing that came out of it is the fact that I am much more prudent in my systems and processes than I was before. I want it as open as it can be. Check register. If someone's voting yes or no on an issue, then there should be able to be a request, almost like a Supreme Court case. I'm not asking for a 3-page dissent or opinion in favor, but if a taxpayer wants to know why did you vote yes or no on this issue, then they should be able to submit a request in that instance and say, why'd you do that? And we respond. It's the same thing with checks. If AISD with how many checks they write in a day can do it, then we can do the same thing.
Well,
So
I'll tell you what we found a couple of years ago. $15,000
Mhm.
in 1 month to Palace Coffee.
Yep.
I said, wow, what's that all about? And I just want us to have the access
Mhm.
to be able to look at it. And so therefore, what's being spoken of on the agenda could be X, Y, Z, but you see elemental P. And I would like for us to be able to ask that question.
Yep.
What you're saying and what's happening doesn't match.
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm a person that looks at the outcomes. What actually happened?
Yeah.
Not what you said. Because with bonds, they can implement and suggest, and then you get the money, and then it's an open check. It can be spent on whatever.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to.
I'd be absolutely up for that.
Are you suggesting that this be with the same process like requesting a FOIA? Or do you just want
Well,
this on a data?
we shouldn't have to do that.
Right. And then
To-
when you
to
get
ask for a
something,
FOIA,
is it actually?
It should
you're
just be
asking
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's pretty simple. So hopefully we can do that. $500,000 a year for Emma, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I know that's not the same type of AI, whatever the case is, when it's expansive, but if we can do that, I think we can do this other thing as well.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Although to be clear, I personally, out of the 421, believe that Emma is a complete waste of money. She is useless.
Well,
Complete.
I looked at a budgetary item for 2026, and it's bike racks for $350,000.
Mhm.
Whether I agree with that or not, I want to be able to look at it in 2026 that it was spent. I want to see pictures. I want to look. Because guess what? If that's what y'all voted on, that's what you want. Hey, we elected you guys. Do your thing.
Yeah.
But I want to see bike racks at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I also want so I'm part of the city registry, and the fact that with my construction business, I have to go on buy board and look and make sure.
Yeah.
If it's anything that the city is spending on, it honestly it needs to go through buy board,
Yeah.
And we have to look at our requisition process, because I look at some of these things and I'm like, why are we accepting this bid? Like, that's a ridiculous number. In my opinion, of course, they could educate me and I could be like, oh, that's
so there
why.
already is
right?
an apparatus.
Yeah.
There is a skeleton that's
Yeah.
doing it, so let's just
Yeah.
implement it here so we can see something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Although I'd much rather see that $350,000 spent on something else. There's a telephone pole. No chain your back to that telephone
Yeah.
pole.
Yeah. So
Sorry. Can't get over these bikes
So-
for it.
next question. What are some, let's be honest. I mean, we were at the event Friday night.
Mhm.
There's so much that is expected, and I really honestly don't think it's fair. There's a lot of stuff, moving parts.
Yep.
I mean, in 2 years, let's be honest. I don't think that's a fair expectation
Right.
to get out of 5 gentlemen, or 4, and then a mayor.
Mhm.
The city manager makes it 5. I'm just being realistic.
Right.
So, with a goal for you,
Mhm.
what's realistic for the budget? What would you like to see? What would you like to tackle and to basically have a victory,
Right.
for you?
Yeah. So there's a few things. I mean, I want to continue to ensure that the ADC is reformed and working for the citizens in the city like it should be. I'm not an advocate for going away with it, but I know that there's a movement out there to revote to see if the citizens want it. I'd be open to that, right? Because at the end of the day, it's taxpayer money going into it. What could we do? If they want to vote on it, why not? But then I want growth, right? I want good, responsible, sustainable growth. So I am in favor of the mud policies. Of course, there's got to be things that are met with those. I know that there's been, issues with down in, because she messages me. She's like, "Have you seen this?" So Collin County has, an Islamic. Basically, they went through the development process and now they're building an Islamic community, right, where they're expecting to rule under Sharia law and all that other stuff. That would not happen here, at least not with me on council, right? If you're going to make a development, then it's going to be a development. It's going to be under the pretenses of what the city lays out. But if we're going to develop in those ETJ zones, the extraterrestrial zones, which that's where those muds are supposed to go. They're not supposed to be developed in the city. They're supposed to be in those ETJ zones. We have to get our infrastructure up to 2025 standards in the rest of the city. We have to. We cannot connect new infrastructure in the ETJ zones to what we've got in the north side. And that's where people are expecting the growth to happen. I'm expecting the growth to happen in the north side with Port Plains coming and everything else. They've got it. We have to get things in the city ready to go if we're going to grow.
Yeah. With that coming,
Mhm.
do you think the school closures was premature?
Absolutely. And I think we heard a great idea by Mr. Reed. Why was the school closure the first thing that happened? It's almost like they didn't even explore other options. Like redistricting. How many times do people redistrict to, garner more votes, right? Down in Odessa, I did business in Odessa. Odessa would redistrict the school lines all the time to favor Permian in terms of sports, to keep the sports, in the power.
From here,
Yeah.
Well, former Northern, so Amarillo High used to do that.
Yeah.
So
But
that's
so
also a little bit-
so we can redistrict with the thought of we need to keep they can say what they want to say. Everyone knows, like, voters aren't stupid. They know why it's being redistricted. Yeah, why can't we? Why wasn't that thought of? And then we're supposed to save $1 million, but we're keeping the buildings open. So yeah, we could go on a soapbox on that also.
Yes.
Yeah, premature, absolutely premature.
But to your point, and to our points that we have been making for the last 3 weeks, he needs to. Why?
Mhm.
Because the same corporate, big, elite money is running the school board,
Mhm.
just like it's running the city council.
Right.
And my thing is always follow the money. Who's benefiting from this? And you will find that all the big donors we're seeing today are the same big donors that voted the school board in 2 years ago.
Right. Well, I am proud to support Tom Warren. Like, I'll put a shameless plug out there because he's the only one who had the guts to stand up in that forum last week and call it out and say it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
Well, again, if we have a check register,
Yeah.
some type of application, we can look at that and find a pattern, either nonsense
Mhm.
or sense.
right.
And I mean that in a fun manner too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
With that, I got photos in there someplace. So, what were your thoughts on that community meeting? I mean, what do you think?
I loved it. The two community meetings we went to last week, we went to the North Heights Association and we went to Pleasant Valley. We had raw, uncut conversation with people about what they want to see in their community and what they want us to do about it. I mean, it was flat out. It was just raw. People had emotion in it. They were able to tell us the things that they saw going on in the city, from a city employee standpoint, because we have city employees in those neighborhoods. They were able to see, where development was put in and, like, obviously corners that were cut. I wish we would have more of that, because then it would force members of council who aren't showing up to these things and they just get the same softballs tossed to them to actually have to answer the citizens themselves. So I wish that we would have all forums in that sense. And that's not, I don't want to like beat down any organizations who put on forums, because I know they put in a lot of work to them, but every forum we went to, we had basically the same 3 questions.
Gotcha.
And it's easy to script your answers when you know the question, the types of questions that are coming.
Well, here's my thing with North Heights. Our group had a community connect last night,
Mhm.
and we were talking about infrastructure. We had Assistant City Manager Floyd Hartman come out, give a presentation, and we invited a couple of pillars from the North Heights, and then they invited others in the community. At first glance, to be honest with you, they were a little upset that we didn't hold it in the North Heights.
Mhm.
And the reason I didn't do that, and I told them I'll never hold a community event in the North Heights until we can say it's done, it's taken care of. Because we keep kicking this can down the road. And I'm not blaming the previous council at all. I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's been 60 years,
Right.
right? I can't blame them.
Yeah.
But I can look a little bit to say, well, can we do something,
Yeah.
with what
Get
we have?
started.
So,
Yeah.
so what we found out is they're put on the 10-year plan, right? And within that meeting, it was said, that some of that money can be moved around if something else that's considered imminent is brought forth. And so we think that's what's been happening. I don't know for sure, but that's why we need a
Yeah.
check register so we can look at these things.
Yep.
So I said all that to say this.
Mhm.
We're all Amarillo, right?
Yeah.
You've hit that point. And what I told the North Heights folks is, hey, we got to watch each other's back.
Right.
Because it's been confined and just left there, no one will ever kind of see it on this other side of town.
Yeah.
So after that happened, some moves have been made. And so we'll never regret doing that.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do those things because we're all brothers and sisters in this, right? Come
Yeah,
on.
absolutely.
Well,
and we can't, and that's what the thing is we can't, overpromise and then not deliver at all.
sure.
Right. And I told the Pleasant Valley folks, like, I'm not going to be able to fix what's happened, what's been ignored for 65 years in 2 years. But what I can promise is that we're going to have a definitive plan of action in
Yeah.
place.
Let's move.
Like, we can make it like we can at least get, some shovels in the ground or something in 2 years and know what our plan is. It might be at the 2-year mark,
Yeah.
but they're going to know what the plan is moving forward.
Well, definitely with things in the water.
Yeah.
That's surprised.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's imminent.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know.
That was nuts. I think all of us who were there were surprised to hear that.
Did y'all have something?
I said this earlier. I cannot prove this because I haven't studied it because the books are not open.
Mhm.
And if it's not actually true, it's certainly the perception of the truth. Is it 75% of the FUFU resources in this community for sidewalks and grass maintenance and graffiti management, and everything else. 75% of those resources are in the southwest quadrant of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not true, it certainly seems true. And
Right.
I'm willing to bet it probably is. Why, and I guess not just why, but to what lengths are you willing to go to balance that?
Well, I live in the southwest part of the city. I'll go to bat with my neighbors all day long and say we have more pressing needs up north. Like our city is our city.
I've heard you say that. Don't fill the potholes in my street. I'm fine. Go up there.
Yeah. And if we have one where I'm falling down into China, yeah, please come fix that, right?
Yeah.
But fixing stuff that just because it's a little rough, like go up there, fix the ones where I'm falling and I'm like worried that my struts are gonna fall off my car when I hit it, right? Because I saw a few of those when we were in North Heights and Pleasant Valley. And that's not to say that they don't get any attention at all, right? But having someone over here every single day fixing these things, and man, I'm hoping that these new asphalt fillers that they bought do what they say they're going to do, and they can do 100 a day, because we can have one deployed over here doing what it needs to do, but then we can have two up there doing what it needs to do. But having someone who's willing to stand up for the rest of Amarillo, I'm willing to do that.
And that's what I've been saying. I know I'm repeating myself, but not to you.
Mm-hmm.
All the money's down here.
Mm-hmm.
All the donors. All the scratch my back, I'll scratch your people are in the southwest quadrant. That is the root of this evil that is befallen the Northeast Heights.
Yeah.
It's because all the money people are down here. And it's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
Well, they need to understand too that if we're going to have the growth that they expect and they want as the people and business, like there's a lot of business owners up here, we got to pay attention to the business owners up north and northeast too.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've got to be able to sit there and have these big folks that we're trying to get in with the ADC have a place to go. And there's a lot of land in the north and northeast. There's not so much down here where we can put a big manufacturing thing. And how many of these people on the southwest side are going to want that in the backyard, right? So we're going to have the north side right, because we're not going to be able to ask a business to come in and like we can't tie in. I mean, we can't even handle, like David Prescott said, we can't even handle Boeing if Boeing came in wanted to come in right now. So
immediately after the pandemic, about 20 or 30 businesses could not sustain. It was sad, Sakura, some of these other places. The monies that was put out on PPP, from the pandemic, not just that, but I would have hoped that the AEDC would have put something together to help salvage. You as a business owner, what are your feelings on that?
Man,
and here again, I want to say I'm not trying to be disparaging of I'm just saying, could we have done something?
The AEDC, when it comes to small business owners, has historically underperformed.
Okay.
Now the bigger ones in town that you're kind of like, why do they need, $10-20 million? They're doing well. I'm not saying that we cut that, but what we need to do is we need to enrich that enterprise program, because the enterprise program is a good program, but why is it so limited? Yeah. Right? Why do we have $80 million in the bank when we know that we're consistently bringing in 28, possibly going to go up, to anywhere between 30 and 31 in the next 2 years is expected. Why do we have $80 million in the bank? I think it's 70 now. But are we not able to do some sort of grants? Are we not able to? And as the ADC, you are able to help people either through the SBA program or you're able to do loans within themselves, right? Why are we not finding ways for the ADC to be almost in a way self-sufficient and have a grassroots program to where the interest they're getting off of these other businesses who are in the program is helping them fund more people, right? These people are paying interest. And they could charge prime. I don't care what they charge, but they've got those reserves in the ADC to start giving out small business and startup loans.
Did I just hear you say that the AEDC has a bank account worth $70 million?
They have 70. They had 80, but then they made a few payments, their first quarter payments and stuff. So they have about $70 million in the bank. Last I understood, yeah.
There really is resources available to do something for SMB, small and medium businesses that are here or want to be here.
When you look at it from the surface level, it definitely seems so. Now, obviously, I'd have to look at the books and see, like what they use as far as reserves for, project A, B, C coming up, quarterly payments and whatnot. Just do a normal accounts payable, accounts receivable type thing. But yeah, there's a lot of money in the ADC right now that's just kind of sitting there.
And would it make sense for you to place that 70 million in 5 different banks instead of just the one that benefits off the interest itself?
Yeah.
That in and of itself could be seen as a little.
Of course, we had some rebuttals, but at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. Like, if we have that much money, we should be making an ungodly amount in interest.
Yeah.
If we're keeping, even if we keep, let's just say we keep a $10 million 10% contingency fund, and we say we're going to put $7 million in CDs, bonds, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's a 3%. Like, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars now at that point.
And if it's going into one bank,
they're
benefiting all that.
Yeah.
Just a 4% interest.
Yeah.
I think the last number I heard.
Yeah.
They get to use it as capital.
Yep.
I think there's something.
Yeah.
There's something conflicting there, and then you see the turnaround of the money being put in this contribution. I don't know.
And it's actually, my head's could explode any second now, but the persons that you're referring to are big donors in this campaign cycle.
Yeah.
So
Life knows.
let's just let's say we have 70 million right now and we take 10% off the top. That's 7 million. At 4%, what are we're looking at, 10%, 7, 5, about what, $300,000 or so in interest off of a 4% loan. That funds 3 more enterprise winners. Just off interest alone on a CD each year. Interest alone funds 3 more enterprise
I'm so
winners.
loving this conversation. Sorry. This
2.8.
I can't tell you how many of these we've done, Leif, and you're the first person to take it in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
This is exciting.
It's his account.
Well, it's the way it goes sometimes. On these, you know what I mean? So next thing here, Mr. Leif, and everyone out there, please stop saying Leif. It's not Leif.
Yeah, well.
It's Leif.
I actually walked up to him the other day and said, I have a question for you. He says, I'll try to answer. I said, you can answer this one. And I actually asked because I've heard it pronounced 4 different ways. So
Yeah.
Leif.
All right, so we've got about 1.5 years. You get it late.
Yep.
Okay. I say 1.5 years because we decided to run again. That last 6 months, we kind of lame duck.
Yep.
The greatest endorsement, I believe, is what you've done in your time.
Yeah.
Right? So, what would you like to see that you accomplished in your first year and a half?
ADC fully reformed, on its way. People are happy with it. They're ready to go. That may take the full 2 years, and they're out there working, and I'll give them very much their credit that they deserve in that. The next one is a plan in place for infrastructure growth within the North Heights and within Pleasant Valley, as well as a plan in place for the wastewater treatment plant. Not just Hollywood, but River Road.
Are we all three clapping that last one?
Yeah.
For that, the Pleasant Valley and the North Heights.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to introduce.
No, you're fine. But those places have so much character, and that's the original Amarillo, right? Why aren't we trying to preserve that and enrich that and bring more people there?
I mean, some of these areas are right off of the Route
Yeah.
66 historic. Why don't we
Yeah.
tap into some of that?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
brands.
I'm telling you, and some of the best food.
Yeah.
My gosh, I love going to Delvin's.
Yeah.
I went there this week, and it was the first time in a few months, unfortunately, that I've been up there to eat. I love going there every single time. Shame, little plug there for them. But.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's got a lot to offer.
Yeah.
And I think that the people there, it's not that they don't care. It's
Yeah.
just they just got tired of not being cared for.
Exactly.
So why step up
Yeah.
and come out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know some builders over there. Wonderful people.
Yeah.
Well, I hope what the people in the Northeast Heights and just the Northeast quadrant in general, just a lesser extent the Southeast quadrant, realize that this is the year that your voice matters.
Yeah.
This year, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. if we keep electing the same corporate nonsense, and if y'all in those underserved areas don't show up and vote, then what are we supposed to do?
Yep.
You've got to vote. LBJ said the world is run by those that show up, and we show up by voting.
Yep. That's what I've been telling all. Like I was like, we can come here and talk this stuff all day long, but if y'all don't go out and vote for the candidates that you guys want and will make a difference, and it's going to be the same. And the third thing that I think is going to be a win that I want to get is I want us to stop playing catch up with a lot of these services. I want us to be able to sit there and look at the budget and say, what is it going to be in 2030 for our police and fire, and what can we do to get it there, versus them having to come every single year to fight for a 3% raise. Because our leaders can actually go out and then start recruiting, and they can get the police academy is done well now. Fire can then start competing, keeping their people from going to Lubbock. It's a lot easier for firefighters to go to Lubbock because it's 24 on, 48 off. I can travel down there and then drive 2 hours back. But we've got to get those spots filled and be able to know that the public is safe, because that was part of what North Heights said too. We don't have people patrolling up here anymore.
Yeah.
So, and it's not. But we've also got within that public safety forum, we have to be able to encourage citizens to be part of that solution as well. But within that, we've got to be able to listen to them. And I told people in Pleasant Valley, you got to give me the opportunity to be wrong, give me grace in that, but then be able to rectify it versus sending me out and lashing me for it.
Yeah.
But we've got to be there to hear. I'm going to create, when I get elected, I'm going to create a Pulse of the Community meeting to where at least once a month I'm at each community and I'm listening, having those same conversations that we had, saying, what do you really want? What are solutions? Like, I don't want you to just come with complaints. Because Councilman Sherlin said that most of the time at his town halls it's just complaints, right? Yeah. Let's talk solutions too. Like, yes, come to me, yell at me, do what you need to do, but then when you're done yelling at me, let's talk solutions.
Well, just the other night you heard that they don't want sidewalks.
Yeah. And I was told by other people that the complaint was we don't have curb, sidewalks, or drainage. So I was under the assumption that it was curb, sidewalks, and drainage.
And you might need to make a hard move on that to possibly say, well, this is what's going to bring more families, and if you want to more children to school, maybe we can have a compromise. I don't know.
Yeah.
On this particular area of Pleasant. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's having those hard conversations. Yeah. But right now, my opponent won't even show his face up there. Just fact of the matter.
Come to an end here. So to be respectful of your time of the day. The slate comes in. It's not who you thought. Some of them they get reelected or elected who we thought. How does your experience and what you've been a part of, in your life, how do you manage that? Because it could be all new people, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you thought about that, and how do you approach that?
Well, the first thing that if it's people who you're not expecting, then it's handling it with grace. Then making sure that we're on the same page, being able to say, what policies are you wanting to see? Of course, we can't have those conversations outside of open meetings, but making sure, and then holding accountable the people who are in there. Like you said, you were running on this.
Sure.
What is this? Why are we doing this? But you're going to work with people who you don't see eye to eye with every single day of your life. But it's a matter of how do you collaborate. I'm not always in the compromise role. I want everybody to win. I don't want anybody to have to give up anything, and compromise means somebody loses somewhere.
Sure.
I want us to collaborate, but that collaboration has to be eye on the taxpayer. Like, how is this good for everyday taxpayer? And I'll work with whoever I need to work with, and whoever's elected, I'll gladly work with them. That's why this whole grandstanding and saying we need to wait on business that needs to be taken care of has really upset me, because your city council, this isn't a lame duck. Your lame duck period can be after you get elected and sworn in for the week. Take care of business, right? And that's what we need to do, regardless of who's in there. We got to take care of business. Yeah. We still got things that we've got to do.
Well, I think one of the challenges you may or may not run into is, the dais is not here to the elected officials. The dais is actually from here to the populace,
Mhm.
citizenry. It shows it on our chart. We're at the top.
Yep.
So the dais goes out to the city.
Yep.
We're the dais, right? And so,
Doesn't feel that way.
yeah, so,
Presently, no.
so how do you objectively sell that to your fellow council members and get victory in
Yeah.
that? I mean, I'm just asking a
Yeah.
down to earth question because you heard these two comments just now, and we're not here to attack them.
Right.
That's it. I'm not anyways. I mean, because the other night seeing all the stuff that's expected, I'm like, that's not realistic. There's not enough hours of the day.
Yeah.
But how do you sell that? How do you sell that?
I think you're not going to sell it unless you're steadfast in what you're truly working for. And I think that's what it's going to take. Like, it's just about knocking it out brick by brick. And that's going to take persistence, making sure that I'm showing up every day with the right mindset and that I'm showing up with the taxpayer in mind, and just continuing to stay on my course. Because at the end of the day, if I can move some people over and, if I'm able to hold them accountable, then, I've done my job.
Standing under conviction.
Yeah.
That's what I hear when you say that.
Leading by example.
Yeah.
I got anything on it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I hear leading by example.
Yeah.
Like, if he shows up, stands on his conviction, it's gonna,
President?
I like to call it provoke them to jealousy. They're like, yeah, I can do it too. I can,
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
hopefully.
Leif?
I have one closing comment, and we've been doing these a lot today and other days and whatever. But something that keeps occurring to me while you were speaking to us, Leif, is the difference between you and the other challengers as well, but particularly you, is I actually believe you're going to tell us the truth.
Yeah.
And I don't believe most of the current city council is going to tell us the truth. And that matters. Transparency and truth telling and righteous convictions.
Yeah.
That's what matters to the average voter. And I just thank you for coming because
Yeah.
I actually believe when you're on the city council, you're going to tell us the truth. We're not always going to like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're going to
Yeah.
tell us the truth.
Yeah. And that's part of it too. Like, the thing with everyone, I'm sure a lot of people got the text message from growing Amarillo jobs. I've been out in front of this thing the whole time. And it's not because I felt it was coming, but it's because people deserve to have the truth, and we deserve to have the hard conversations now, which I'll tell you right now, the text message is a blatant lie. They're kings at omitting facts. They forget that the case was dismissed with prejudice, and there's a reason that I got the resolution that I did. I want to have those conversations with you now versus kicking around and going around the sun and doing what we need to do to circumvent and then being like, oh, well, this is just how it ended up. Like, no, like, this is where I'm at. This is why I'm here. Why are you where you're at? Educate me why you're where you're at. And then maybe we can have something in there. But those hard conversations are had because we're willing to tell the truth to each other and understand that just because I have a different viewpoint doesn't mean that I have to hate you or not like you or anything like that.
Do you think the candidate in those situations where there's PACs that are doing those types of things, do you think they have an obligation to step out in front of that and say, hey, listen, that's uncalled for. I'm not with that. Because when you don't hear from them, it's almost as if
They're complicit.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say to folks out there that, I mean, because a lot of times they hide behind those things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't say anything. Yeah, it wasn't me that said it. It was you. You contributed to it because you were quiet. Ellie,
Step out and say,
yeah.
hey,
Ellie Weisel said it, but it's the people who stay silent that empower the oppressors. That's why I came out on my Facebook calling for it to end on all spectrums. It doesn't need to be
yeah, I
negative.
think you called for a
yeah,
debate. Right?
I called for a debate, and then I called for the negative personal attacks to end. Like, it can be negative about the issues all day long. Let's be negative about the issues.
Yeah.
But when it comes to personal stuff, do we have ammo in our guns? Yeah, we absolutely do. But are we using it? No, because I'm not trying to ruin a man. I'm not trying to involve his family, right?
Well, I can tell you that your opponent single-handedly started or ended the whole controversy on the sexually explicit material in libraries. Your opponent is the one that says, we don't need to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so 500 or 600 more children are gonna see this smut before you decide to deal with it? I mean, sorry, I will call him out, but I can and you don't have to. But this is an issue, to your point.
Yeah.
I'm not calling him out for being short and wearing glasses. I'm calling him out because he consciously decided to leave that sexually explicit material in the library, and he was the one that started the end of that conversation.
Yeah, and I'll call it out on the fact that for basically the full 2 years, and where you're going to get difference in me, and it comes to that trust and having the conversations, is he rides the fence on almost every single issue,
Mhm.
and he'll go to where he feels like he's going to get the least pushback or what supports his pack, and he can deny it all day long. But I mean,
Oh, it's obvious.
we all know who he's with.
Well, the word says you shall know them by their fruit, right?
Yeah.
The outcomes.
Yeah.
In the governmental
Yeah.
spectrum is the outcomes, is the kryptonite
Absolutely.
to what was said. What's the outcome? So, Leif, I want you to take about 2 to 3 minutes, if it takes that long.
Yeah.
Let people know why they should vote for you and where they can find out more information. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. If you want to find out more information about me and my campaign, my pillars, go to curtisforamarillo.com. It's KERTIS. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be able to have a council member that you can trust, who's transparent, even when times are hard, when things aren't necessarily comfortable, and who's willing to disagree with you, but still have a conversation. You deserve somebody who's actually going to go to work for everybody and not just people within their circle. Regardless of who backs me and where things come from, I'm still here for the citizens of Amarillo. First and foremost, under God, and I truly mean that. That's something that I stand on, a conviction that I stand on, because I have to look you taxpayers in the eye if I see you at United or at Walmart, right? And I'd rather you shake my hand versus punch me in the face. So when you vote for me, you're voting for the change that's going to affect everybody, and it's going to be good for Amarillo, and it's going to move us forward. Versus bringing us backwards.
Well, something that we're looking to do out of Conservatives of Texas, and hopefully I can get enough folks out of Randall County, the precinct chairs, the CEC, to do the same thing. I'd like to start implementing a follow-up forum to everything that was spoken of during the campaign and whatnot, and not to headhunt anybody, but just, hey, would you ever agree to doing a follow-up forum and say you win, and in 6 months? It's not about saying, hey, you said this. No, let's just connect. Let's talk. Let's just have a follow-up forum, see where we're at.
Yeah, where are you at? How have things changed?
That's it.
Yeah, because I mean, just in everyday life, just politics is going to change too. Like God moves us in ways in a year, and then we think that's the calling, and then 5 years down the road, we're doing something completely different because we're called different ways. So.
Yeah, what I like hearing when it comes to Christian leadership, I hear this quite often. What I didn't know at the time, because that happens.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time. I didn't have that puzzle piece. I didn't have that box top cover.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see it, and guess what? I didn't know that at the time. So, Leif, thank you for your time.
Thank you all. I appreciate y'all. Yes.
We're good.
Yeah.
Now y'all come on this side, girls. Just real quick. Thank you, Leif, so
Thank
much. Very, very welcome. All right. So there's Miss Kathy. Where's Cassie at? Y'all say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us. Vote. Remember to vote.
No.
Get out and vote.